I want to talk about how people in power, civil servants, local authorities, government, the police force and so on, abuse their power. And I'll give you a couple of examples and I'll let you decide for yourself. At one time you could get a parking ticket and you got it, say, for 4 hours, but you only used about 30 minutes. And then you'd give it to somebody else. The local authorities decided they're losing too much money and they didn't really want people to do that. So now you have to put in your number plate number, and then you have to do all kinds of things before you can have your ticket. So you can end up like a lemon in front of the ticket machine, and you can't remember your number plate, so you start to panic. And of course the machines are more complicated now. This kind of causes stress to people, so every time you go to park you end up getting all stressed up about putting your number plate and so on, just so that you don't do what humans do the best, which is to share things. So what they're doing is they're actually changing us from humans to commodities. They're commoditizing us, and so earning money from us from parking fees, but they don't actually allow the luxury of being human. The same kind of thing happens with all of these speed cameras and so on. You get penalized, not because you made a mistake, because you see, if you're going in a 60-mile-an-hour zone, but you have one sign that says 30 miles an hour, and then of course there's the threat of speed cameras. If there are no more signs, you will eventually start going at 60 miles an hour. This is what humans do. This is normal. And the reason is that in that context, where you're driving, 60 miles an hour is normal. So you will speed up unless you see another sign. So if you keep seeing signs after sign of 30 miles an hour, then you will stay within the speed limit, or if it was actually printed on the road itself. Otherwise, you will keep speeding up. And a friend of mine who used to work with me at BT was coming to work, and he got caught in the same kind of dilemma. There were a lot of roadworks in Ipswich at the time, and he was caught speeding, and he lost his license for about 18 months. He went through the most massive depression you can imagine. At that time, I wasn't actually doing what I'm doing now, so I couldn't help him, but he told me about it, and he was in such a bad way. He stopped working, so he's no longer gainfully employed. Is that what the authorities really want? To depress people so much that they become less productive? I don't know what happened to him, but he was not in a good place. I remember coming home from Slough on the motorway, and there's one particular junction that's not well marked. And every time we come to that junction, we end up getting confused. And this time we got confused, so we stayed on the right lane where we should have really got into the left lane, but we couldn't get into the left lane by the time we realized, because it was jam-packed with cars. I had my family with me. I had my 2 kids and wife with me. So if I had stayed in that lane where I could have been smashed to pieces by other traffic coming from behind me, I was perfectly legal. That was a legal thing to do. Or I could have turned right. That was a legal thing to do. But at that time, I'd read the book called Port Against Yes or No. That means that there are no absolutes. That you shouldn't be dogmatic about a rule, and you shouldn't be dismissive about a rule. You should always be like a playful child, picking things up, putting things down. Unfortunately, this police officer hadn't read that book. So I was actually, a person behind me kindly let me in. So I said, thank God for that. And I'd actually stopped at the checkered zigzag line to protect my family. So this guy behind me let me in. So I said, oh, what a kind soul. Only to find out that it was a police officer looking to get some more brownie points. So I got stopped, really not in a very nasty way, very kind of intimidating way. Stop right there, stop. Okay, like if I just murdered somebody, and so I stopped with my family, and he wrote me a ticket so that I can actually have 3 points and pay a fine. Okay, I could have challenged it, and the judge would have thrown a book at it, but like normal people, it was just too much hassle. I might as well pay the penalty, and the problem will go away. So can you see how these policies tend to harm us rather than help us? There's another case which may seem a bit traumatic, but I'd like to still discuss that with you, which is a young man in Smethwick. He's about 22 years old. Now, he's living with his grandma, and whatever you do at home in the confines of your four walls is perfectly legal. You can do whatever you want, but he didn't want to. So whatever you do in the comfort of your own home is really your business. So this young man, instead of smoking up the place, sitting in the toilet, smoking a spliff, decided that he was going to spare his grandma the torture, and he was going to go outside and smoke this spliff. So you would have thought that in your confined area, which belongs to you, it's your abode, it's your house. You do whatever you want in your house. It's like when you go in to visit a drug dealer. You know exactly what you're both up to. You know what you're doing is wrong. But as long as it's between you two, it's not a problem. It's only when you get a third party involved that it becomes a problem. So when I had an agreement with the guy who decided that I need to go to prison because he self-harmed the second time, it was an agreement between two adults. And if he'd kept it like that, if he kept the other end of the bargain, so when something goes wrong, you don't usually stitch up the drug dealer, do you? Because if you do, you'll find yourself at the bottom of the Thames with concrete boots. Anyway, let's get back to this story. So this young man is sitting in his car, minding his business, smoking a spliff, chilling out. And there's a knock on the window. See, he opens the window, and there's this police officer saying, "Hello, what are you doing here?" Okay, "Oh, I wanted to smoke a cigarette away from my home because I didn't want to smoke near my grandma." And he said, "Oh, is that so?" And he sticks his arm into the car. And then he says to the young man, "I can smell cannabis." And at that moment in time, humans are unpredictable, so are animals, but humans can be very unpredictable under these circumstances. And he didn't know what to do, so he panicked. He panicked like hell. And he started the car, and he started to drive off with the police officer's arm caught in the window. And he drags the police officer for several hundred yards, and then the police officer's crying his eye out, "Stop, stop, stop, I could go under your wheels, you could kill me, stop." And eventually he somehow managed to grab the keys and stop the car. And then of course he had to give a chase. He called the other police officers to help.
You alright, mate? Everything alright? How you keeping? You alright? Yeah. You live here? Ah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I was just wondering. Why are you just chilling in the car for? It's a bit cold, isn't it? The window down.
I'm not allowed to smoke inside.
Oh, is that why?
He lets me just smoke cigarettes in his car.
You've been smoking cannabis, yeah?
Nah, not really.
Just turn it off for now, mate. I don't want you driving off. I don't want you driving off. Stop! Stop! He's just drove off. Asian male in a vehicle. He's running away now. Running off. Stay there now. No! Help! He's running off. Stay there now. Asian male, IC4, wearing blue jogging bottoms, grey. He's wearing a grey. He's running onto High Street now, towards Cape High Street. Help! Staying New Hope Road. He's running towards New Hope Road. OP. He's just tried to run me over. Mate, stop what you're doing now. You've assaulted an officer. Come down the hill. He's going to Montague Road. I repeat, Montague Road. He's just tried to run me over. Right. I've got it all on body cam.
He seemed quite friendly at first. Something just clicked. Once the ignition went on, all of a sudden my arm was attached to the car and I was being propelled through the force of the car, hanging on the side, through a couple of branches, good 20, 30 feet, shouted to the male, stop, stop, to which he wasn't paying any attention. I knew at that point I had to get the key out of the ignition. If I didn't, I could have gone under his tyres. I might not be here today. And I decided, hang on a minute, what he's just done, I'm not going to sit back and just let him get away with that. I've always been brought up to respect the police, and I thought in that moment when he showed the aggression, I thought no.
Yeah, that's fine, mate.